Hi guys and girls, it's Talon here. This might seem like a strange game for me to do a tutorial on, but ironically I've actually got a lot of hours in FSX, and one thing that I was looking at earlier is that I actually wrote a guide on this exact subject a couple of years ago, and I'm still getting messages about it now, and I thought, well actually, out of all the games that I play, this could be one that I could help some people with. So, all we're going to be doing for this particular tutorial is an extremely simple flight. It'll teach you literally how to take off, fly and land without crashing. It's going to be an autopilot only tutorial. Let's just get it set up because I can talk, there's going to be a lot of dead time to do it with. So for the aircraft, 737 would be perfect. If you really want to try a 747 you can, it's a very similar principle. But yeah, for this particular one, 737, any of the default ones is absolutely fine. We will go to flight planner. Now I've actually got the flight planned already, but I will go through it again just so you can see how it's done. Choose departure location. Bournemouth, my local airport, so we'll go with that. Heathrow, select that. This is going to be on IFR and VOR to VOR. That is going to get explained in a much later tutorial. All you need to know is click those two boxes, it will make your life very, very simple. So, find the route. It'll show you roughly where you're going to. And click OK. It'll say, save it. Yeah, we'll save it. Well, mine's saved already, but that's absolutely fine. And do you want to move your aircraft to the departure airport? Yes, we do. We're now set to fly. Here we go. Right. Now, why are we choosing 737? It's got an extremely simple autopilot. This is not going to be a tutorial that will show you how to whiz through the clouds with the greatest of ease. This is just going to be one that will let you take the plane off and fly to the destination of your choice. So, you know, for example, if you live in Cardiff and you've always wanted to fly to Orlando, it's exactly the same principle. Nothing will change there. The only thing I will say about this is try not to do too short a flight, simply because when I first recorded this tutorial, I did one from Bournemouth to Bristol, thinking, oh, it's only a short flight. And it is. The problem is it really throws you completely out of the way. It got me flying right the way over Devon and slightly over Cornwall just to try and land, line us up for the airport. So don't worry about that. Right, just saying this sort of distance will do great. So it'll start us off in this view. This is called virtual cockpit. We don't want this. What we want is to right-click cockpit. That'll put us in 2D view, which is far, far more simple for our needs. Now, one thing I will say, as soon as you come into this particular view, press F7 6 times. What that will do, if I go outside very quickly, is, if we look at the back of the wings, it'll bring the flaps down. You'll see them starting to come down there now. The reason I say do that right now is because I've got a real tendency of forgetting to do that. So yeah, do that straight away. That's absolutely great. And now the next thing is we need to contact air traffic control. Why is that? Because once we get in the air, we're going to be relying on them to tell us where to go. There's a couple of things we can do straight away. First thing we can do is click this switch here, CMDA, that's the autopilot master switch. Another one that we can click is the auto throttle arm, and we're going to be starting off at 250, but that will be raised throughout the flight. Yeah, 260 will do, doesn't really matter. I know for a fact that every time you take off they tell you to fly at runway heading, which in our case, if we look down the bottom here, is 78. Now there are ways of being more complicated at working out your runway heading, but that's a very simple way of doing it, especially if we start on the runway like we are here. And we will click heading select. The only thing we're leaving empty at the moment is the altitude, and we'll come on to that in a moment. So, press either apostrophe or the fourth button across. Either way, it will bring you up this little menu here to contact air traffic control. So, we are going to be tuning into ground and requesting IFR clearance. A lot of this actually won't apply to us at all. It's going to be telling us to taxi to the runway, that sort of stuff, which we will do in a later tutorial if there are subsequent ones to this. We're not that interested. The only thing we're interested in is fly runway heading, which is what I thought. Climb and maintain 3000. Well, now we can actually acknowledge it. But we can change this box here up to 3,000 because that's the height they're telling us to fly at. And also altitude hold. So that's fine. I will bring the vertical speed down. It's automatically set at 1800. I'm actually going to bring it down to 800 simply because it tries to climb extremely steeply and I don't like it. Right, so request taxi IFR. Still wait for them to chat. Acknowledge the clearance, yeah, assume Bournemouth Tower. Request takeoff clearance, this is the bit we're interested in finally. Clear for takeoff. Delightful. Right, we'll just wait to acknowledge that. So we can acknowledge takeoff clearance. Now we can drop that box out of the way. So, we're set up. We have got autopilot clicked on. We have got the altitude hold set at 3,000, so the plane knows exactly which height to fly at. We've got the heading set at 78. That will keep changing through the flight, as you'll see, with the heading select ticked. We've got the speed set at 260 with the auto throttle armed, not clicked on yet. We're actually ready to go. So the final thing to do is to click this button here. We will now go to an outside view. And you will notice that we start to roll down the runway. So, when we're airborne, we've got a couple of little things to do, which we'll come on to. Nose wheel looks like it's just starting to lift. And here we go. And we are airborne. So once we're in the air, we press G to bring the gear up. We press F5 to bring the flaps up. You'll notice them coming in from the back there. And we go back inside because we are now waiting for more instructions. They won't have us flying this heading for very long at all. Now we're airborne, we can actually increase the vertical speed slightly, but we're okay. Right, contact London departure. If we were climbing to 30,000 feet, then I'd be changing the vertical speed, but for 3,000 I really don't care. So, now for this first part, we're just interested in the instructions that they're going to keep giving us. So whatever they tell us to do, we will do, and it will be lots of things, especially for the first bit, like changing headings. Now I'm going to bring the speed up to about 330 now. The 737 is capable of doing 360. The only reason I tend not to is because it takes quite a while to slow down as well, and when you've got lots of things going on, especially during a tutorial, it's just faff. So, turn left heading 030, we will do that, and as soon as we do that, you'll notice the plane's already turning itself. This is the beauty about autopilot. So acknowledge approach, and the last thing that we're going to be doing right at this moment in time is you'll see it doesn't really matter as long as this is as long as this is done at some point during the flight, but you'll see runway 9 right approach. So we will just wait a second just to see if we get any other instructions. I'm just going to raise this up to 345 is nice. We're going to give him a bit more vertical speed now as well. So that's fine. So yeah, runway 9 right approach. There is not an auto land in FSX, but there is very, very close to an auto land in FSX, so we'll be going through that as we get closer. Contact silent approach. So I hope this is simple enough so far. I mean, like I say, essentially the plane is flying itself. If you change the altitude now, the plane will go up and down. We're only interested in the heading because we're not exactly going very high for this one. Right, so just while it's on my mind, turn right heading 060. Too far. Wonderful. Acknowledge. Yeah, so just while it's on my mind, what we're going to be doing is clicking this button here, the fifth one across, it says display and hide map. It takes a little while for this to load. Now, it doesn't matter when this is done, like I say, as long as it's done at some point between now and landing, we're going to be clicking on the place we're going to, which is Heathrow EGLL. Click OK, and what we're interested in is, forget all this, it looks complicated, runway 9 right, the frequency for it is 109.50. That will change depending on which airport you've chosen and which runway you're given. What we can do is bring up this little radio stack here. Third one down, right hand side, we're going to be changing that to what we just found out. So in our case, for this flight, it's 109.50. So that can be left alone now until landing. That's great. Sounds like we're a little bit too quick, so let me just bring the speed down slightly. Wonderful. Right. So yeah, so basically the plane now is all geared up for doing the entire flight. Apart from changing the heading now, all we got to worry about is the landing. So, in terms of the landing, what I've just shown you here, changing this is pretty much our auto land feature. That will come into play a little bit later on. Another thing we need to do as well is this button here, twice to the right, number 2, that's the auto brake, which means as soon as we touch down, the plane's going to be braking itself, which just, it saves us pressing a button on the keyboard. So if you are landing on a particularly short runway, then yeah, it could be worth setting it to 3 or even max, but it'll be like hitting a brick wall as soon as you land. 2 is nice, gentle, slow. So there we go. Right. So I think what we'll do now is just have a little bit of an outside view. That's a pretty shot. Now, like I mean, for this particular tutorial, I'm using the default planes. If you've just downloaded FSX, and it does come up for sale quite often, it will at least give you an idea of what you can do. I remember when I first got FSX, I was the same as everybody else, where I jumped straight into the 747s and that sort of stuff, and I couldn't work out why it kept stalling and crashing and blowing into trees and that kind of stuff. And it's because I wasn't using autopilot, and autopilot is just so easy. So, yeah, here we are. Right, we're quite happily cruising along at 3,000. 330 is a nice little speed to be cruising at as well. We'll see if we can go a little bit quicker. But yeah, so, anyway, why, going back to what I was saying at the start, why Boeing? Well, the 737, it's a very, very simple little display to understand here. I will do another one with the 747, it's very similar. Airbuses have got a different system. You will see a lot of very similar things, especially altitude and heading. It's just a slightly different setup to how you actually use it. Personally, I prefer using the Boeings. They're a much, much easier system to use. Other people will say differently, but they might like Airbuses, but we'll do a tutorial at some point on Airbuses. This is the only reason I did this today was simply because the 737 is probably one of the very, very easiest planes to fly in the game. Right, so we're contacting line and approach. That says to me we're coming up for halfway in the flight, which is very nice. Now, one thing I will show you, this will come into play with a lot of the longer flights, is the third from the right here, displaying high GPS. If you actually want to see where you are, don't want to bring up the map and all that sort of stuff, this will actually show you. So if we, zoom out on this, it's got our route plotted in here, and yeah, I mean, you can actually watch yourself sort of going past different parts and that kind of thing. So this is a nice little feature, but again, for this particular tutorial, it doesn't really matter a hell of a lot. Right, turn left heading 030. Too far. Ah. There we go. But yeah, I mean, when we get into some of the bigger flights, again, if I carry this on as a series, we will be discussing this, because you can do some brilliant stuff with this. You can literally set up the entire flight in this and let it do itself. So we'll just drop that back down again. So yeah, this flight's going particularly well. I was actually wondering about whether to do this as a two-part guide, and what I think I'll do is this one, of course, is going to be the entire flight. Oh, hang on a second. Right. Turn left 360. Well, 360 in the grand scheme of things is actually 0. So what they're asking us to do now is head due north. And from experience doing this particular route, I know that we're getting fairly close to Heathrow now. But yeah, it's like so. I might cover. I might cover some of the other default planes. I'll probably do one for an Airbus and one for a 737. One thing I will add is that I'm not using a joystick for this. All I'm using is keyboard and mouse. It's very, very rare that I use anything other than keyboard and mouse. The only exception is that I've got a gamepad that's plugged in that I tend to use if I'm doing a little bit of taxiing around the airport, but I don't think I've ever played FSX and had to use a joystick, so don't rush out and buy one when you've just seen yourself that it can be done very easily without. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'd like actually some input in the comments on this to know if there's any particular tutorials you'd like for FSX, because like I said, you know, it's a game that I've got quite a lot of hours into, and yeah, right. Turn right heading 060, this is where it gets interesting. So, 060, descend and maintain 2,500, so we'll bring that down now as well. We'll also bring our speed down to 250, in fact, yeah, slightly low, about 240 would be nice. That's fine. Right, until established. So, we'll drop that out of the way. What we're actually going to be doing now is bring up the radio stack. Do you remember we put in that number there? Yes, we copied. Remember we put that number in the right hand side. We'll flick that switch, that'll put it on the left hand side, and the last thing we're going to be doing, sorry, it keeps on coming up with this, right. Okay, right, so we can drop that out of the way. Now we've changed the number onto the left hand side. Last thing we're going to be doing is pressing this button here that says APP. The whole plane now is geared up to essentially land itself. Make straight in runway 9 right. That's fine. So yeah, the plane's, with that selected, the plane's actually going to land itself. What it's going to do, and again, I could actually do a tutorial just based on the radio alone, but it's basically going to be following a radio beacon right the way down to the centre of the runway. So all we need all we're interested in now is literally our speed, and the plane will do its own thing. So we want to be doing around about 160 when we land, so I'm going to bring this down to 200 now. And just giving it 3 flaps to begin with. Just remember that's F7. And you'll see on the left hand side that our speed is going to start to drop. Now once we're around about 215, yeah, we'll give it another flaps. That'll help slow us down even more. Under 210, that's very nice. So, we're approaching about 200, and what we're going to be doing is now, I'm going to bring it right the way back down to 160. There we go. One more flaps, and we'll be pressing G for the landing gear. So let's go and have a look outside. There we go. You can see the flaps are coming down very nicely as well. Wrong button. So, the only thing I will say at this moment in time is if you could actually just sit in this view and watch the plane land itself. There is one thing that we're going to have to do from the inside as soon as we touch down, which is flick one switch. But basically from this point on, the plane will just land itself. Very good at the moment. Very, very good. Now again, like the start of this flight where we started on the runway, I'm just going to end this tutorial parked on the runway at Heathrow. I won't be doing the taxiing, that will be for a later one. But I hope that this has given you an indication as to basically how you go from A to B. That's all we're interested in doing. So it looks like the plane's just turning itself very slightly now. It'll probably be lining itself up for the final approach. Yep. So you see on this middle bit here that we're turning around to face the runway. And it won't be very long now before we start hearing this really annoying beeping noise, which is when we know that we've lined up and we are on course to land. So yeah, our speed's at 162, 163, so that's absolutely perfect for landing. Looking out the cockpit window now, you can see the runway in front of us. And you can see, if you look at the left-hand side, that our altitude's starting to drop as well, so we're definitely established on the on what they call the localizer. So we're now following our radio beam straight into Heathrow. So we'll just have a look outside. Like I say, I mean, feel free to go outside right until you touch down. That's really not a problem at all. Doesn't she look pretty? Right, clear to land. We will just acknowledge that. I quite like doing this view actually, because it just gives me an idea of when I'm about to touch down. So, we've been given landing clearance. That's wonderful. Lots and lots of views. This is the perfect time just to have a play around with them. We can even do the classic returning from holiday view as well. Right about now we should be able to start seeing some cars. This is actually a really nice view once you've done quite a long flight and a high flight, you know, sort of cruising at 30,000, and this is the bit where you know you're finally about to make or break. Are you about to face plant into the runway or have a successful landing? Yeah, we're flying over the motorway now. So little cars going along there. So it really won't be too long at all now. Now again, like I say, we are going to have to go back into cockpit view the second we land, so we'll just leave on a few seconds longer. It's quite a nice thing to watch. Smoke coming off the tyres. Beautiful landing. How's that? So, in here, we will click auto throttle arm, which takes the auto throttle off. Press and hold F2, and you will notice on the left hand side we're starting to slow down already. And when we are stopped, yeah, not really interested in that, we're not taxiing, thanks very much. There we go. One perfect little landing at Heathrow. So that's how you use autopilot. Hope that's going to help some of you out, certainly doing the initial sort of beginner flights. And yeah, I will certainly see you for the next one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.